I caught up by satellite with Senator Tom Cotton shortly after Russia committed airstrikes in parts of northern Syria. Cotton condemned the bombings, claiming it was an attempt by Russian President Vladimir Putin to diminish opposition forces to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. I asked the senator if he had any proof of this versus an attack on ISIS, as the Russian government claimed.
Roby, it's pretty clear based on the territory that was struck around Homs that Vladimir Putin's military is propping up Bashar al-Assad by striking local Syrian opposition forces, because the Islamic State, based on all the reporting that we have, is nowhere in this vicinity. This just goes to show the danger of the president's inaction in Syria, that now for the first time in over 40 years, Russia is engaged in overt military operations in the Middle East, which is in direct violation of a long-standing bipartisan policy that Russia shouldn't be able to project power into this critical part of the world.
I also asked Cotton, who is critical of the Obama administration's handling of the matter, if he had a better plan.
The United States has to show both our allies, but especially our enemies in the Middle East, that we're not going to let Russia become the main actor in that region. So just last week, former General David Petraeus, former head of the CIA, testified in front of the Armed Services Committee that one simple step we should take is to tell Bashar al-Assad that he can no longer drop barrel bombs, barrels full of C4 explosives or even chemical agents on his own people. But he has to stop that, and if he doesn't, then we will stop it. A second step General Petraeus testified about would be establishing no-fly zones in southern Syria and probably northern Syria, which would give both of the local opposition forces the space they need for safety to operate, but also alleviate some of the pressure on the refugee crisis we see throughout the Middle East and Europe. Those are just two simple steps that General Petraeus testified that I think we should have taken long ago. We can still take today.
And earlier in the show, we spoke with Arkansas Agriculture Secretary Wes Ward about the state trade trip to Cuba. Senator Cotton is opposed to lifting sanctions on Cuba and restoring diplomatic relations until there are more changes towards democracy. I asked him if his position had shifted with the latest Arkansas delegation's efforts.
Yeah, I'd love to see Cuba open up. I'd love to see more trade between Arkansas and Cuba, between Cuba and the entire United States. But unfortunately, we haven't seen any opening of Cuba over the last 6 years. President Obama abandoned a decades-long bipartisan policy of confronting Cuba and trying to stand with the Cuban people and for American security interests, not with the Castro brothers. In fact, over the last 6 months, the Castro brothers' totalitarian regime has probably gotten more repressive. All they've seen is benefit from this deal. They've yet made no compromises whatsoever. And we had a chance at the end of last year, because Venezuela, given the low price of oil, was withdrawing its support for Castro, to finally see the Castro regime begin to crack. But President Obama, as he too often does, has conciliated with our enemies and given them a hand up when we should have driven them all the way down.
And finally, State Representative Charlie Collins of Fayetteville has created a website to draft Senator Tom Cotton to run for president in 2016. The website, callingcaptaincotton.com, has been up for more than a week now. So I asked Senator Cotton if he wanted to have Representative Collins pull that site down and put an end to this situation.
I didn't have to be drafted when I became Captain Cotton. I volunteered for that, and the only thing I've volunteered for right now is to serve the people of Arkansas in the United States Senate and to help give my son a bath and put him to bed every night.
And probably changing a couple of diapers, too. That's Senator Tom Cotton.